Welcome to the Fight with Teddy Atlas, presented by Dynamic Striking. I'm Ken Rideout, joined as always by my friend, the founder of the Dr. Atlas Foundation and the unelected mayor of Staten Island, Teddy Atlas. Teddy, how you doing?
Cake for everybody. I might as well be like the other politicians, right? I mean, if you're gonna make me the mayor, cake for everybody. No, if I'm the mayor, they're getting more than cake. They're getting
starting with the truth.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice to think that we could actually trust these people that are actually put into position to look out for us, that are supposed to honor the word trust. God, it would be a novel idea, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be awful nice if they actually lived up to that trust? Wow. But in the meantime, there's somebody that did live up to our trust that's right behind you, Ken. Marvin Hagler, the great one. He lived up to our trust. Every time he got in that darn ring, we knew what he was going to give us. Everything.
Yep. R.I.P. to the great Marvin Hagler, Brockton's own, just outside of Boston, home of Rocky Marciano, the Brockton Boxers football team, and the great, marvelous Marvin Hagler. Terrible loss for the sport, terrible loss for humanity. Just a good dude all around, was never in the media, never in the press. Just, when he was in the ring, he just handled his business. And after his life in the ring, he was quite the movie star over in Italy and came back to the U.S., led a relatively quiet life. We tried to get him on the podcast. He was not one to do a lot of press in later years, but terrible loss for the sport. And I know you have a lot of thoughts and opinions on Marvin Hagler.
Oh, boy. Marvin Hagler, way too often we use the term out there in media of throwback. We use great too easily, too. Why? I think sometimes because we don't know. Sometimes there's people in there that are supposed to be pundits, that's supposed to be in a responsible position of knowing, Ken. I think sometimes they really don't know that much as the public would hope they know or would think they know because they're in that position, but they don't. And so sometimes that word is thrown around almost to the point where it loses some of its strength, some of its credibility. It should not be lost with Hagler. Great belonged with Hagler. And the other thing that we use too often, that, again, just gets used, I think, sometimes because the people using it want that athlete, that performer, to be thought of the best since they're around to obviously be talking about them during their time, that they're around to be the broadcaster for them, if you will. So they say, oh, yeah, he's great, he's a throwback. But great and throwback really did deserve to be mentioned in the same breath when you mention Marvin Hagler, because he was a throwback in a way. First of all, he didn't fight for his first world title to 51 fights. Who the hell does that? I mean, who the hell does that? If you go back to the 20s to 30s to 40s, the greatest era of boxing, when it was bigger than baseball, and fighters had 300, 200 fights, and they all fought each other, and sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Well, some of them didn't get to main events to 30, 40 fights, much less world title fights. They earned their way. And that's kind of what you imply when you say throwback, that somebody earned it. They did it the hard way. They did it the right way. Marvin Hagler did it the right way. He did it the hard way. He was a throwback. He went and sought out, I'll say it again, he sought out all the best middleweights in the country, and they were in Philadelphia at the time. And he fought them all in their hometown, to the point where he lost 2 fights. One was to Boogaloo Watts, and the other was to Willie the Worm Monroe. Now, the one with Willie the Worm Monroe, real slick guy, as you would think, a worm, right? It's kind of slick. It's hard to grab. It's hard to grasp. That's why I guess you would have that nickname. He lost that fight, and he being the honest guy he is, he said, I still got a lot to learn. And that guy I just fought, he done learned it already. He already learned it. And I got a lot to learn. And he sure as heck, he went and learned it. And he lost also to Boogaloo Wops where he got robbed. But he came back, and of course he learned, and he beat Willie the Worm twice. He stopped him once. So, and he fought Benny Briscoe, who was a ton of a puncher, granite chin. I mean, he fought all the top Philly middleweights, and it got to the point where a promoter there, a Hall of Fame promoter over there, Russell Peltz, and he's got a book that's going to be coming out, and people should look for that if they really love boxing. They really should. They should look when it comes, just like when Mike Silver, the great historian in boxing. There's very few people that know the sport like these two men. If they really care about the sport and the history of the sport, they really should get their books, and Russell Peltz will be coming out, and Mike Silver's is out already. But the point is that Russell Peltz was a young promoter back then, and the Petronelli brothers managed and trained Hagler. And the promoter usually doesn't do this. The promoter wants a great fighter like that fighting in his city, right? Yeah. But he actually said, Russell and someone else actually said to the Petronelli brothers, why do you guys keep coming here? Why do you guys... And you know what he said? The Petronelli brothers, Goody and Pat, they said, because Marvin insists on it. He wants to fight the best. He wants to become the best. And there's only one way to do it. Fight and beat and learn from the best. And that's what Marvin's going to do. And he did. And he cleaned up house eventually. And it's part of what obviously was his growing curve to become the great Marvin Hagler. And his attitude that he's not going to, look to navigate around like they do today and the promoters do today with the partners of the networks where they keep a guy undefeated. And they don't give him the fights that the fans want to see. They don't give him the fights that are obviously the most difficult. And they don't give them the fights that are going to form them into a guy like Marvin Hagler. Because sometimes you got to go into the fire to really meld, to really forge that sword. You want a sword of steel that will stand up, that will not break in combat, no matter how difficult that combat is? Well, you have to forge it in fire. Hagler forged himself in fire. And he was the man of steel. He really was. I mean, he was Superman to me. Because punches bounced off Marvin Hagler the way bullets bounced off Superman. I mean, that was Marvin Hagler. I mean, the chin on that guy, the determination, the will, the character. I talk often about strengths and talents being more than nowadays we all jump on the neon talents, Ken. The flash. We don't even wait to see if the guy lasts more than 11 minutes. But he's flashy. Oh, the greatest I ever saw. Oh, really? All right. Can you wait like 7 more minutes? See if somebody else comes down the pike that's also fast and that was Marvin Hagler. That's Marvin Hagler. And because Marvin Hagler, he showed the attributes I talk about when I talk about true strength, true talent, true traits, true abilities are more than just the neon ones. If you want a friend in life, you want somebody, we talk about politicians, what you wish you would have in a human being, in a person. What do you want? You want someone who's dependable, trustworthy, somebody who's reliable, somebody who you can count on, somebody, if they're your friend, you call them at 1 o'clock in the morning, they don't hang up on you. They don't remind you what time it is. You know what they say? Okay, I'll be there in 10 minutes. That's what you want. And you get it sometimes, but not too often. You got it with Marvin Hagler, okay? That's what you got, Ken. That was his power. That was his strength, along with all his physical attributes and everything else, and the way he could fight and being a southpaw. And he could fight inside, outside. He could counterpunch. He could box. He'd go get you. He'd wear you down. He'd break your ribs. All of that stuff. All of it. But he was dependable. He was loyal. Loyalty is a power. It's a strength. If you can be loyal in your life to people when it's difficult to be loyal, you're a strong person. You have strength. You have character. He was loyal to the Petronellis during a time when it was awful hard to be loyal to in that business. People coming to him saying, "What the hell are you doing with these guys? Come on. Really? And you want to throw race into it? Everyone throws race into it. I don't know. I'll throw it in there. The Petronellis were both white, and Hagler said, "I don't care anything about color. I just care about a commitment I made, and a commitment they made to me. That's all I care about."
There was a famous story that they told him that he could get a flat fee to his manager, and he said, "They're going to continue to get in 10% of my purse, and if you bring it up again, you're fired."
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to hear from a person who has that kind of character.
They helped to develop him and got him to that point, and he said, "They're with me from the beginning. They're staying with me while I was at the bottom. Now they're staying with me at the top, and I don't want to hear any more talk about it."
And that kind of strength, that kind of character, that kind of philosophy in life, it is power. If you're strong enough to stand behind somebody when it becomes difficult to stand behind someone, when it's less convenient, when somebody could be offering you more money somewhere else or more whatever somewhere else, and you have the power, the strength, the resolve, the belief to stand behind that person, that same strength will show itself in whatever you do in the ring. It will show itself, and it showed itself with Hagler. It was always there. It was always there. The guy would never, ever let you down or let himself down or submit. If he didn't submit to those things, he wasn't submitting to anything in the ring either. And talk about the greatest middleweight. He was one of the great. Carlos Monzon has to be in that mix. Harry Greb has to be in that mix. 300 fights back in the 30s. I mean, my God. Carlos Monzon, incredible. Those kind of guys, but Hagler is right there. Hagler's right there. But Hagler, you get 2 for 1. He's not only the greatest middleweight or one of the greatest middleweights of all time, he's one of the greatest southpaws of all time. So you get both with Hagler. And he, like I said, he fought everybody, anywhere, anytime. Everybody. And he was no frills. He didn't come up with a silver spoon. Damn it, he didn't even have a freaking spoon. You know what he had? He had those things. You remember this, Ken. I know you're looking young and all that, and you are young, and you're young of spirit, young of heart, and you keep yourself in great shape. But we remember this a little bit with those wooden spoons. Remember those wooden spoons when you got the Good Humor ice cream, and they broke, because the ice cream was hard, and the spoon broke, and you put it, you dug it out with your teeth, at the end, you just did what you had to do. But you had wooden spoons. That's what Hagler had. He had a wooden pallet, whatever they call that scooper thing. That's what he had. That was Marvin Hagler. He didn't have no silver spoon. He didn't get a Olympic gold medal. He didn't have all that, which is great. He didn't have the money from the promoters, the big money and the hoopla. No, he didn't have. He just had Marvin Hagler. That's what he had. It was enough. It was enough. He earned every freaking thing he got. Every freaking thing he got. And boy, oh boy, he really built himself into some kind of man, some kind of fighter. He really was a throwback. And he was the guy that his whole life followed in that kind of thing. Like, he's a guy that wasn't spoiled. He's a guy that, had to do it the hard way. Well, sure enough, when he wins the title finally, I think it was in his 56th fight. When he wins the title, finally, he has to go to England. and he fights Alan Minter, a damn good fighter, a good boxer. He goes to England. He fights Alan Minter in a stadium over there with all hostile, obviously fans against him, and he destroys Minter. He cuts him up. He takes him apart in 3 rounds, and again, consistent with what I'm describing, that nothing easy went to Marvin Hagler. He's got to now deal with a rainstorm of bottles that are being thrown by the freaking stupid fans why do you do something? But it happens. It happens. It happens in sports. It happens in life. And stupid things sometimes. And they're throwing freaking bottles at. He wins the world title. The greatest moment of his life after going through everything, fighting all the top guys in Philly, going to everyone's hometown, dealing with everything, getting robbed, coming back, winning. And now he's got to have bottles thrown at him. They actually had to cover him up to get him out of there. The Petronellis, they covered him up. They shielded him. They ran out of there. They got out of there. But again, when you think about Marvin Hagler, that was it. Everything he did, he did it. He didn't do it the easy way. He didn't do it the easy way. This was a big loss for us. He left us way too early. I hope the people feel that, and I hope Marvin and his family feel that what I just said about him is enough. Because with a man like him, you never think it's enough. You do your best to give a tribute to him that is proper and worthy. And I hope I did. But Marvin Hagler, he was special. And I add one other thing. Who the freak fights John Mugabe? Get his record for me, will you, Ken, while I'm talking? Who fights him? He's undefeated with all knockouts. The guy could knock down not one.
25-0.
25-0, 25 KOs, right, Ken?
Yep.
25-0, 25 KOs. The guy could knock down not one wall, but 3 walls, okay? And he goes and fights him. And it was a brutal fight. And he winds up taking him apart and ruins the career of Mugabe. And Mugabe was never the same after that. But who fights guys like that? Who just says, yeah, give me him too. That's a good idea. Yeah. I mean,
off the heels. That was off the heels of beating Tommy Hearns.
Off the heels of beating Kenny, I'm so glad you put that in there. To really give it the proper perspective. And off the heels of beating Tommy Hearns, which some people think it was the OK Corral. It was the OK Corral. It was the shootout at the OK Corral, where some people think it was the greatest fight of all time, or the greatest 3 rounds of all time. And he, off of that, he goes and he fights a guy 25-0 with 25 KOs. That was Marvin.
And as soon as he was done with him, he faced Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yeah. And it took a lot out of him. It took a lot out of him. I'm taking nothing away from Sugar Ray Leonard because that was a great man. That was a great fighter. A great fighter in any era. Any era. And that's how I judged them, that they could be in any era.
Split decision.
But, yeah, a lot of people thought Hagler won. Some people thought it should have been a draw.
Yep.
And then that was Hagler. He took off, went to Italy and did those movies, those action movies over there, and came back with an Italian accent, which I loved.
I loved it.
I loved it too. I loved it too. And I loved Marvin Hagler. And rest in peace, champ.
Hey guys, want to take a quick pause to give a thank you to today's sponsor, Athletic Greens, the all-in-one daily drink to support better health and peak performance. I've said it before, I love this stuff. It's the one thing that I make sure I take every day. That's no BS. Like I genuinely take this every single day and try never to miss. These guys spent 10 years working with top nutritionists and doctors to create this formula. It's made from 75 whole food sourced ingredients. It's got vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, and antioxidants. Consider it like an insurance policy for your body's health and immunity. And as an aside, if you check out Andrew Huberman's latest podcast, it's called the Huberman Lab podcast. He has an episode that just came out today, and this isn't an ad for the podcast. It's just very topical and relative to what we're talking about with Athletic Greens. He's got a new episode out today called How Foods and Nutrients Control Our Moods. And as I was listening to it, I couldn't help but to think it couldn't be more relative with Athletic Greens, that everything you put in your body affects the whole system, right? Yeah, everything is tied together, the gut, the brain. So when you're taking care of yourself and getting the right nutrients, it's essentially fueling your brain with the right nutrients. So check out Athletic Greens. Like I said, it's like an insurance policy for your body. Especially this product, especially paired with Amp Human's vitamin D, is all you really need to stay on top of your immunity. 12 servings of fruits and vegetables, no need for multivitamins or whatever else you take, and Athletic Greens has you covered. Athletic Greens has given our listeners 10 free travel packs with every order. So whether you're looking to boost your energy levels, support your immune system, or address gut health, Athletic Greens is the way to go. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/atlas to claim the special offer of 10 free travel packs with your first purchase. Again, athleticgreens.com/atlas. Well, speaking of dependable, we had two dependable guys in action this weekend. Their first fight, I think in 2017, was a candidate for Fight of the Year if it wasn't the Fight of the Year. Estrada versus Chocolatito lived up to all the hype. The decision was another story. Estrada gets the decision, which, look, I watching it, I thought it was as close to a draw, maybe a slight edge to Chocolatito. I wouldn't have a problem with Estrada winning by one or two rounds. Like, it could go either way. But one judge had it 117, 111. The WBA announced immediately that the judge is suspended. I don't know that I've ever even heard of of a governing body or a sanctioning body.
Yeah, it has been done. It has been done before. Just so you know, it has.
Well, the guy must have, everyone kind of jokes about the fact that, take them to Texas if you want to get the decision for the A side. And, Estrada was the A side, although he had a loss to Chocolatito in the first fight. So
when I said it was, I'm sorry. I hope I was right. I jumped in there. When you said you never heard, you were going to say an organization suspending a judge, right? Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah.
It has been done before. But go ahead.
He must have been too egregious for them. But, just curious to get your thoughts. The fight itself, let's start with the fight. I mean, the fight was awesome. Just nonstop action. I think they threw a billion punches. Neither guy seemed to give anything. It looked like maybe after the 6th or 7th, Chocolatito looked a little bit winded for a couple of rounds, but came back strong. Just an incredible fight. I mean, it sets the stage for a rubber match. They each have one win now, but these decisions, these 17-11 decisions are just hard. It's at least thank God that they called the guy to task and they want to get some justification for it, because I'm just curious how they get
window dressing. Ken.
I agree.
We'll continue. I just had to throw that in. Window dressing, baby.
I completely agree.
Until I see more, until I see that they say, oh, he's suspended a year. Oh, okay, good. But until I do that, I'm going to think the guy's going to pop up next week. I don't know. I mean, really, I don't see any substance behind anything these guys do. Show it to me. Show me.
Yeah.
Show me. I'm from what state is that? The Show Me State. Where is that? What state is that? You're smart. You went to college.
Rob.
Come on. Don't tell me you wasted all that money on a good college education. Come on. Show me state.
I don't remember covering state nicknames, but let me see. Show me state is Missouri.
There it is, Missouri. All right. So I'm from Missouri, okay? Let them show me, these organizations, that the guy is gone a year, that the guy has to go to some kind of seminars, schooling before he comes back, that the guy is demoted to smaller fights and he earns his way back the way that, put him in the minor leagues, the way the other leagues do, the other leagues, the other major sports that have national commissions, unlike us. And they grade these officials. They grade them. And if they're not up to par, they get moved to smaller venues, smaller things. Or you don't hear about them no more. But everyone should be accountable. I mean, having a license in boxing to be a judge, it's not a right that, I have to write. I should have that because No, it's a privilege. You get named a judge, it's a privilege. And you should treat it as a privilege and honor it as a privilege. Respect it as a privilege. And act as though you understand that. And the organization that is supposed to be the enforcers, the police, oh my God, I can't even believe I'm saying that. It's a joke. But they're supposed to make sure that these guys are the right guys and they're doing the right job. And if they're not, hold them accountable. But they don't. They don't. So here, and again, here's a situation where they jump out because everybody's looking at it, and so they jump out and they say, we better show the fans before we really lose them someday, which they won't because the sport's been around forever, and people love what the fighters do. That's still noble. Not what the people that run the sport do. That's pretty horrible. But what the fighters do is still noble when you get the right fighters and they get in there in the right match. So people will still come, hoping to see that, like they did the other night, knowing that was going to be a good fight because of what the two men brought and what they had brought throughout their whole career. But at some point, some fans do leave. They say, I've had enough. I've had enough of watching a movie and knowing what the end's going to be before the movie ends, knowing that a guy's going to get robbed. I don't want to see it no more. So they had to do something. They had to jump up and say, okay, we're gonna suspend them until further notice. Yeah, I want to see again. I want to see the steel behind this. I want to see the merit, the substance behind this, what they really do. Okay? And then I want to fix the problem permanently. You don't put air in a flat tire. What the frick? And you don't fix the tire? So you put air in a flat tire and then you keep driving? No, you got to freaking fix the damn thing. Otherwise it goes flat again, okay? You know that, Ken. Come on, but you have those surfers, though, where they come with the trucks and they come fast. When you call them, they come fast. What do they send? 2-3 trucks for your roadside assistance, so you don't have to worry about a flat tire. But I'm just saying that some people do. And when you fix the damn thing, fix it with some of the ideas I just drew out there. Put these guys in school, put them in seminars, teach them, retrain them, teach them what the criterion is supposed to be. Grade these officials, grade them. Let them earn their marks. So, getting back to the fight. Great fight. Great fight. I don't know what the hell the commentators had. One of the commentators had it. If I'm going to knock the joint, I'm going to say whatever I believe and be consistent. I don't know. One of them had Chocolatito winning like 6-1 or something early on. I didn't see that. I didn't see Chocolatito winning 6-1 early on. I saw Estrada controlling the outside early on, looking to do what made sense for him to do. Counterpunch, use his quicker hands, use his legs, be more mobile, probably be more dimensional, and be on the outside and look to catch the aggressive Chocolatito coming. Take advantage of his aggression a little bit. Catch him coming, counterpunch, keep a little bit of a space between them, and, own the outside. That's what I saw. And I saw Chocolatito when he got inside, he does what he does. He was scoring with nice, beautiful short shots. That's his forte. That's his bread and butter. He throws beautiful short shots. He gets inside. He times you in between shots. You could be tricky like Estrada and you could counter, but you could be tricky in an aggressive way too. Like Chocolatito, where he was timing shots as Estrada was throwing. Bang! He was timing them. Timing can beat speed. Timing can negate speed. And he was showing a class, a master class, with doing some of that stuff. And listen, boxing's supposed to be about who lands the most telling, clean, effective punches, right? So if you go by that, Estrada was the busier guy. No argument there. The busier guy. But Chocolatito was probably landing the more clean, effective punches, in certain parts of that fight, for the most part. And the more telling punches, if you will. But Estrada did his part too. And again, Estrada, for me, they talk about ring generalship as being one of the components and criterions also of scoring, right? Okay, I thought ring generalship, then you have to give a little bit towards Estrada. He was controlling the areas he wanted to control on the outside, for good parts of the fight, or some parts of the fight. I thought it was an even fight. I thought that, I always talk about geography, Ken. Geography, you tell me who's going to get the geography that they want, that suits their style, suits their abilities best, and fight the fight in that geography, that space, they're going to win. I thought both guys got their geography for the most part. I thought Estrada and parts of the fight, especially early on, that's why I don't understand. As much as I don't understand the 117-111 score from that judge, whatever you call him, guy that's masquerading as a judge, I don't understand the commentator having it the way he had it early on either, all for Chocolatito. But having said that, I'm going to get my eyes checked. I'm going to go to your eye doctor. You got good eyes. I'm going to go to your man, get an appointment, get him checked, make sure that, that I'm okay here. I'm board certified, and that, I can continue, feeling the way I feel and saying the things I feel, that I could trust what I'm freaking seeing. But I had it really close. I could see the flow, the generalship of the fight, the rhythm of the fight being controlled a little bit more, maybe, by Estrada. The flow, just the rhythm of the fight, a little bit more by Estrada. So I didn't score the fight. I might have had Estrada slightly ahead. I might have. And most people probably thought I was going to come on and go, oh my God. No, I have no problem Chocolatito winning. None. I have no problem with the draw. But I have no problem with Estrada. I have a problem with 117-111. With that crap. With that kind of crap. We don't need that crap. Guys that risk their lives to get in the freaking ring and do what these guys do, they don't need that. They don't need that insult. They don't need to deal. A guy like that, if I had my way, if I was a czar of boxing, I'd put his picture up, the judge. I'd put his picture up every time there's a fight. Warning. Just like when the Surgeon General puts on the cigarette packs. Warning. This could be hazardous to your health. I would put his picture up with that label right underneath. Warning. This man could be dangerous to a fighter's health. That's what I would do. And I do it with all those creeps. Yeah, I said it. All those creeps. Do it with all of them. But anyway, at the end of the day, my man, you look great, Ken. You do. You look great. At the end of the day, I have no problem with Estrada winning. It was a close fight. It was a hell of a fight. I thought Chocolatito won the last round. He won more than the last round. I get it. But, I mean, boy, oh, boy, did he bring it. Oh, he brought the thunder, the lightning, the hail, the winds. He brought it all. Oh, but then Estrada behaved the way that you would expect a guy like a champion like him to behave. The last quarter of the round, what's he do? What does he do? He took all of that, and he comes back furiously, and he wins the last part of the round. Wow. What a round that was. And the sixth round was an incredible round. The seventh round, if my memory serves me, there was some special rounds. But at the end of the day, these guys were like two energy bunnies, with they do that commercial with the energy bunny where it never runs out. That was them.
Yeah.
That was them. They didn't take much time to introduce each other to each other, did they? They went at it. They went right at it. And I thought again, I'll finish it by saying the harder, more telling punches, Chocolatito. He scored beautifully with timing shots, short shots on the inside, and also stepping with Estrada as he stepped away, catching him beautiful shots. Estrada did a beautiful job of catching him coming in, keeping distance, good for him a little bit in the spots that he did, and putting punches together real well. At the end of the day, ring generalship, control of rhythm of the fight a little bit towards Estrada, more telling punches, very important in the criterion of scoring, I know. That goes towards Chocolatito. Really close, and really a terrific fight. You're going to have a trilogy, I guess. I would think that, that Eddie Hearn would like to get a trilogy together. And hey, we said it. It didn't take the amazing Kreskin to say this, but we did say it was going to be a great fight. And you're the one, to your credit, you're the one on our last podcast that brought it up. Said, Ted, this fight's coming up. I think it's going to be great. And then I chimed in, and said it has to be great because it's connected to their styles, their physical styles, but it's connected to their mentalities, to their temperaments, to their character, to who they are. That's what they are. They're warriors. They're going to come in. What do warriors do when they meet in the ring? They go to war. That's what they do. They don't start playing love songs, right? I mean, they go to war. So we called it, but so did a lot of people. You didn't have to be, Notre Dame to pick that one.
That division is stacked. The junior bantamweight, Estrada, Ruiz, Chocolatito. I mean,
Ruiz, what a monster he is. Oh, he's a monster.
What a friggin' list of killers there. The best part is those guys are all fighting each other. And, if there's any silver lining to the controversial judge there, like I said, I think that, had Estrada won 15-13 on two judges' cards and Chocolatito got one, maybe, okay, whatever. But I think the fact that the judge was so one-sided, Estrada said at the press conference after that he thought it was probably a draw, leaves the door open for a third fight, and that's a bonus for all.
Honest fighters. What an honest fighter, right, yep, Ken?
100%.
Can you imagine? Not too many guys are going to say that. But that goes with the temperament, with the character, with the man that I'm talking about. That's always connected, who you are, that how you perform, what you are, because they fight an honest fight, and they're honest people. Only a guy like him could be that honest. It's consistent with the way he fights. It's consistent with the way he lives. That he's honest. That he doesn't lie. He doesn't make excuses. He doesn't look for outs. He faces what's there. That's why he fights that way. That's why he's able to fight that way. That's why he's that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a small little thing like that, but it's important. The thing that I also made a note to myself, I'm sorry, I have a little problem with, it gets a little rough after a while. Sometimes, can you calm down? Can they calm down a little bit, Ken, with these punch stats? Because it's not a machine. It's not an android counting these freaking things with laser eyes. It's not. I don't think it is anyway. And it's two human beings. Nobody can accurately count the punches coming like that. And especially, it's like trying to say how many jelly beans are in one of those jars. Do you know? I don't. How many jelly beans in a jar? I don't know, 452,000. I don't know. I mean, how many punches were thrown? 3,223 and a half. What? Really? Is that accurate? Can I count on that? Can I get a certificate that certifies that, please? Can I get a guarantee of that? Please. I mean, come on. I know that the networks love the bells and whistles. They love the graphics. They love to do all that stuff, for the viewers. I get it. We get used to it and all that stuff. But the commentators use it too much. I mean, they threw 2,000 punches. You sure it wasn't 1,999? Are you sure? Are you sure? Or maybe 1,824. Are you sure? I don't know. I don't know if these guys were good in calculus, good in math. I don't know. But to be able to watch a furious pace fight with two titans chucking leather like that, and you're going to say, 2,344. What? And that even worse. And 521 will land it clean. Send the guy to the hospital. Send him to the hospital, get an MRI. If he took 521 punches, I want that man. I care about people. I want him in the hospital. I want an MRI done right away. Ken, I want it done right away. Really, the University of Tennessee, you got a good hospital over there, right? They got a great hospital, great place. Yeah. I want him sent immediately. Immediately. He took 520, 340, 400. He took that many clean punches? Really? Oh my God. I mean, Ken, God, help me, Ken. Take it from there.
Those superflies, though, I can't stress enough. Between Estrada, Ruiz, and Chocolatito, and Carlos Cuadras, the four of them have fought a total of 9 times, much like along the lines of Marvin Hagler when the four kings were fighting. They fought each other 9 times. Then, when I was thinking about that, when I was running this morning, I was thinking about the welterweights and, when is there is so little activity amongst the top welterweights. They're not even fighting stay busy fights. It's just, it drives me crazy because
you're never going to get Spencer
Crawford.
You're never going to get the fights you want, Spencer Crawford, whatever. You're never going to get. You're right. Because
I just don't know why. Well, like Marvin Hagler,
greedy promoters. That's why. Because the greedy promoters, they want to have options. They want to control their guy. They don't want to take a chance they're going to lose their guy, and they want to keep their deal with the network. And part of their deal with the network is that they got this guy, and they don't want to lose that guy because they want to keep getting paid by the network. They don't give a frick about the fans. They don't care about you. They don't care about what you think. They could give 2 craps about that. They'll put a good fight on when it comes down to Pike, but going out there and saying let's put the best fights on in a consistent way that's going to make the sport better and healthier, and that's going to be the way the UFC is. No, the UFC can do it because they got one guy running it, and he does care about the health of the sport because it's to his benefit. It is. It's to his business benefit that he cares about the health of the sport. But these promoters, there's 4 or 5 power brokers in boxing. Those guys with their deals with them, maybe less, but those guys with their deals with the network, they only care about their little piece of turf. That's all they care about. They could give 2 craps about the rest of the property out there that belongs to boxing. They could give 2 dams about that. They only care about their property. What their and keeping that healthy. And I'll tell you what, some of these stupid executives at the networks, they don't even know they've been turned into farm clubs. Yeah, farm clubs, growing fields, so that the promoter can grow their guys, farm their guys, and then be able to continue to have a cottage industry out there where they can continue making money, and every once in a while pop one of their undefeated fighters in a fight with the less risk possible, unless it's a mega fight, unless it's a Mayweather and Pacquiao that comes around, once in a lifetime. Unless it's that, then both got to get together. We got to do it because we can't leave that money on the table. But other than that, they just use it as a farm system just to build up their guys and put them in with subpar fights on the network that the fans have to suffer through in order to get those undefeated records. And the networks just, they sit back like not even aware. I guarantee you they're not aware because they're looking at other things. They're looking at other, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, other things. And they're not really looking at this. It's programming that suits their purpose. It gets a certain audience in there. So they go along. They don't even look. They only look when it gets really bad. When it gets dire. When they'll start to lose money. But a lot of these cable networks, there was so like HBO for years, they overpaid. There were idiots running it. Oh, we're great. We're geniuses. No, they weren't geniuses. They were morons. But they were. Some of them were egotistical, arrogant, freaking morons. But they could throw $5 million to these overpaid heavyweights, and they could put them on and, just pay them whatever. Just pay them anything. Just write a blank check. And there was never any accountability for these networks, for these executives. You know why? Because it was subscription-based. So the subscribers were there still for the movies, for boxing, so the subscription base, they never really took a look at, the boxing we're overpaying. And we're not really getting back the bang for our dollar because the overall subscribers was still healthy. And as long as that was still healthy, well, then there was no light really shined on their department, on their part of how they were running the boxing, how they were overpaying, how they weren't always. And then later on, as Ross Greenberg went down the road, the fights got worse and worse and worse. And finally, it disappeared. They give you all the reasons, whatever, but it finally disappeared. You don't have to, again, you don't have to really be a scientist to figure out why it disappeared. It didn't make the sense anymore. But that was coming for years. It didn't just suddenly happen. It just caught up to them. So when it catches up to whether it's the zone, whether that they run out of money and the subscriber base doesn't get high enough and the numbers don't come there for the fights, then something eventually happens. But it's usually a long haul. It's usually a long haul where, again, there'll be a certain market. There'll be a certain amount of people that'll be watching the fights because they love boxing. They want to see it. They'll tolerate some of the crappy fights, hoping to get to the good ones. But then if it stays that way with A's against B's, as we've been seeing in boxing more and more, well, then you're going to get the audience is going to drop off. And then finally, maybe one of these numb executives will get poked by somebody. Hey, buddy, yo, ho, are you looking at these numbers here? And then maybe. But again, that takes time. But if you compare the pay-per-view numbers, see, when you get a major, whether it's Showtime or whoever, and you got a major cable network putting fights on, you're going to get certain numbers. It's a major, you're going to get certain numbers. It's out there. It's part of the package. But then, when you go to the pay-per-view, that's when you separate the kids from the men. That's when you start to find out. And you look at those, and like the Charlo brothers, I like the Charlo brothers, but they're not fighting top guys. They're only staying in Heyman's little circle there, fighting those guys. So when they put on that show with the two Charlo brothers, those pay-per-view numbers, well, you know what they were. What was it, 75,000 or something? I forget. I don't remember.
It was
but
deplorable.
It was pretty damn bad. And that's when the executives could hide out a little bit. They could say, oh, no, look at the cable. Look at the overall numbers on the cable. Yeah, on regular cable, they're sustaining. But then when you go to the pay-per-view, where the people have a choice, where they got to dole out the money, and where they know and they want a certain level, they want a certain product, they want to make sure it's going to be more than just an A against a B. Then you see the drastic change. Then you see the difference with UFC and these guys. Then you see the numbers that UFC is bringing in with the pay-per-view, and you say, holy cow, they leapfrog past boxing. And that's where they did. That's where they did. Because they got one guy in charge looking over the whole estate, the estate of UFC, and saying, I ain't letting nobody screw this up. I ain't letting nobody put a swampland on my property. No, I'm not letting them do it. I'm making sure that there's going to be competitive fights, so the sport continues to thrive, so the fans continue to trust my product, my label, my brand. That's the difference. UFC is built a brand. That's the difference. With boxing now, it's hit or miss. It's hit or miss. That's the difference. And I'm sure I made a lot of friends in that last 20 minutes, out there. Feel free to send me an offer for a job. Call my agent. Call my agent, okay? And no problem, okay? I'll consider it.
Speaking of pay-per-views, there's a blockbuster coming up next month on pay-per-view. Andy Ruiz and Chris Arreola, pay-per-view attraction.
Oh, please. You're really starting to bother me now, even though I love you. Yeah, now you're getting under my freaking stuff.
I actually love Chris Arreola. He's one of my favorite characters.
I love Chris Arreola. Are you kidding me? No, I love him as a person, as a father, as a fighter. Everything he's given everything. He's given his sweat and his blood, everything. But first of all, forget that. It's not. I think it's dangerous for him. I think it's a dangerous fight for Arreola. He shouldn't be taking punches anymore. I know that it's not my. I know it's his life, and I know I don't want to stop anyone from making a living. I don't. I understand that you're right, but like anybody, I care about people, and I care about good people. And I just think that it comes to a point where, especially in a sport like boxing, where you get to that point where it's time to stop. And it comes, to everybody. It comes in other things too, where you have to stop. But in boxing, it comes with a price tag to it if you don't stop in time. And I'm concerned. I'm just concerned for physical.
I think the biggest concern with Chris is that he might win that fight and then get in with one of the real
he's not winning punches. That fight. Listen, I would love to see him win that fight and say that he could win it. But Chris Arreola, one of the toughest men you're ever going to meet, gallant warrior, really, all the pride in the world. And he had his time, but it's not now. And he's been hit a lot of punches throughout his career. And I always would say when I was doing the fights on ESPN that you don't judge a fighter's age chronologically. You judge it by the amount of tough fights he's been in, the amount of punches he's taken. And by going by that, Chris is old. Going by that. And Ruiz is not. And Ruiz isn't a bad fighter. And he'll be in better shape, it's a good fight for
Ruiz.
And unfortunately it's not a good one for Arreola. And listen, two separate things, Ken. It doesn't belong as a pay-per-view. You're right. I mean, you're 100% right, Ken. And good for you for bringing that up and, not worrying about, someone say, no, we don't worry about that. We tell what we believe that the fans should hear. That has nothing to do with us worrying about an agenda or having a relationship. It has to do with kind of the same thing Dana White does and he's successful with. He just wants to make sure it's a good fight. A competitive fight so that the public trusts him. And they keep buying that brand, UFC. We want to do the same thing. Same thing. So the public trusts us. That no matter what, whatever the consequences are, we're going to say the truth. What we believe to be the truth. Based on experience, based on judgment, based on ability of being in this business, especially from my side of how long I've been in it. So, it's not a pay-per-view quality fight. But aside from that, I don't think it's a fight that should be made with still a vibrant Ruiz, still a young enough, talented enough, if he's got the incentive, if he's motivated. I think it's a very dangerous fight for Arreola at this point in his life. But I'm not the guy in charge of that. I'm not the guy in charge of that.
Well, on the other hand, when you talk about Dana White and building trust and putting on the fights people want to see, we have another big fight announcement coming up with the promoter, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. Over the weekend, Tyson Fury did an interview. You could tell that he was frustrated by how long the proceedings were taking to get the contract finalized. So he gave an interview saying he wasn't training, he didn't care, just posturing. It was very obvious. And they grabbed Aram on vacation and asked him what he thought about the fans were upset about what was being said, that the fight not being made. And unlike Dana, Bob's answer was, oh, they can go F themselves. I don't give an F what the fans think. They don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. The next day the fight got made. So clearly he does care. And Tyson Fury did what he had to do, said what he had to say. And it looks like the fight's final and it's booked. And that's going to be a big treat for the fans. I mean, that's what everyone wants to see, the top two guys fighting each other. So we've got Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua coming up. Let me check the date. But what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I mean, it's the fight, right? It's the fight that we wanted to see. It's the fight that, boxing goes as the heavyweights go to a certain extent, right? It always has. It always has. But heavyweights have not been up to snuff where they could lead the pack. Other weight classes have had to lead the pack. Welterweights, light heavyweights are great today. The lightweights are great today. If we could just get the right matches, of course. But the heavyweights haven't been up to snuff. But this is the one now that brings the heavyweights back into the forefront. Again, that's always been the head. That's led the game. That's been the head of the monster, right? That's everybody wants to hope to see good heavyweights. And this is the fight. If you're going to make a heavyweight fight, it's the fight to make. It'll be a huge fight. Put aside COVID with the virus. I mean, that fight could have filled 2 Wembley stadiums. Wembley Stadium fits 90,000. I mean, they would have had an overflow. I don't know now what the rules are going to be for that, but that's how big the fight, especially over across the pond, over in England, where the Marquess of Queensberry rules started, where this all started with boxing over there. Great fans, just like we have here, but great committed fans there. When they're attached to someone, when they identify with someone, when the promoters do a good job, and they do a good job over there, the promoters, and they identify these fighters, the way you could identify the NBA players, LeBron and Stephon, and, the fans identify. They don't identify necessarily with the teams all the time. They identify with the player. Well, that's what makes boxing so huge over across the pond in London, where they make these fighters identifiable. It goes beyond the sport. Now you know who Joshua is. You know who Fury is, and you're invested in the guy, And look, Fury he's the number one fighter right now. He would be the favorite, I would say, obviously going into the fight, I would think, with my bookie and all that stuff. We'll check with all that stuff, and Ken, you'll get that. But for me, he's the force here because he's the promoter. He's Muhammad Ali, He's what when Mayweather knew how to promote, and when McGregor in the UFC promoted. I mean, that's one of the talents. That's one of the elements. That's one of the sides, let's face it, that Fury brings to the table. I mean, when he did all that stuff, I don't know how much of it's real, but it's promotion, where he goes, they're taking too long to make this fight. I'm not training. I'm up to 16 pints a day. I'm drinking 16 pints a day, right? I mean, that's him again. That's him, stoking the flames, getting the people ready to bring them in, to bring them into the fold, to bring them in, because it's about making money, right? We want to make great fights. We want competitive fights. We want history. We want legacy. Yeah, but money. They want money. And that's one of the ways you do it. You got to perform, but that's part of it. And so it's the fight everyone wants to see. It's going to be a mega, mega fight. I'm going to favor Fury. We'll get more into it when it gets closer. But
opening odds minus 185 on Fury, plus 150 on AJ.
I think Fury could stop him. All right, I like AJ. He's a good fighter. He's got good talent. He's had a great comeback. I like all that. I'm not going to say he has a China chin. I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say Fury has a better chin, and I'm going to say that he's been to dark places when he got stopped by Ruiz. He being Joshua, he went to dark places. Now he found a light. And he lit the room up, and he's back into a place that's lit. I just don't think he's that far away from a power shortage. I think that there could be a blackout again, where his confidence, when I say the electricity, the light, I attach it to confidence, belief, mental strength, and durability. I think that a blackout could happen in that generator of his again. He's not far removed from being taken back to no lights. So I'm going with Fury. And Fury, all the things he could do in the ring, he showed me he could go get you now, and he could box and pot shot and move. So now Joshua can punch. Joshua's a banger. He gets into position, but he's going to have to get into that position because Fury's more versatile. Fury has more say because he could do more things. He could control the outside if he wants and not make it so easy for Joshua to get into his geography, so to speak, as I like to talk about. So I like Fury, but it's going to be a humongous fight. And my problem is this. Tell me if you agree with me, Ken. I want to have an open debate about this for the fans because that's what it's about. It's about including the fans in this. I think that the fans are going to have, they're skeptical and they can be rightfully so. They can be very, very skeptical, cynical, if you will. As I can be, because boxing will teach you to be that with people's intentions. So I'm speaking for the fans right now. You hear me, fans? How many of you guys, and Ken's going to represent you, how many of you guys out there right now, put your hands up, how many of you feel a little shaky? You're glad to hear the fight was made, finally. Very good. They haven't found the site yet. I bet you $1 to a donut it's going to be in the desert, somewhere in Saudi Arabia, over there, because the money's there. The money's there, right?
They're talking about Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Qatar, U.S. or U.K., basically everywhere. But it's hard for some of these other venues to compete with
come
the
up
Middle
with that
East
money.
paying the site fees.
I agree. And listen, the COVID laws, the virus laws are different where you can allow more people certain places. That's all going to be into play. But the fans, the most important people, put your hands up there. I want to ask you a question. And Ken's going to answer it for you and represent you guys. How many of you felt, after you felt happy initially, oh, good, the fight's finally made. Good. Let's get a date. How many of you felt a little funny when the other part of the news came there was a 2-fight deal? That you didn't start thinking a little cynical, a little suspicious. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute here. Wait a minute. They already made a 2-fight deal, so does that mean, I'm just wondering, guys, does that mean that we're going to get a draw? so you can get a double bang on the dollar. You got dual promoters here, right? You got Hearns involved. You got different people involved. You also got, what is it, Frank Warren that's involved over in London. You got 2 guys in London, and then of course you got Top Rank involved because they gave $100 million. Well, they didn't, but they got ESPN to put up $100 million, for Fury to sign him. So you got these different guys involved. But with all that, and these guys know how to make money, they know how to get the bang for their dollar. They've been doing it their whole careers, right? Aaron's been doing it for 700 years now. So did anyone get a little funny there, a little cynical, a little suspicious when you heard it's a 2-fight deal? Like, they didn't even fight yet, and they made it for 2 fights? Like, they're already conspiring to say, oh, we're going to fix this where we're not worried about just 1 fight. That would be enough, I would think, for the fans to get 1 great fight, a historic fight, to have 1 heavyweight champ. But no, they got to do it where we're going to do 2. So we make sure we're going to make extra money. So you start thinking, what are they conniving here? What are they, what is being manipulated here? Or what? It says, am I on the right track here, Ken?
Of course. The only challenge there is if you get a one-sided beatdown like in the Deontay Wilder fight, where Wilder had the rematch clause with Tyson Fury, and who knows what happens behind the scene, but from the outside looking in, it doesn't look like Wilder wants that fight, because if you did and you have a rematch clause, you would get a challenge to get your title back, and he didn't take it. So that's the only thing I say with these, like,
you're right. The rematch ended at the end of the year, but they didn't get it done before that. They could have a million reasons why they didn't get it done, and you get left out, and Wilder gets pushed out for now. But my real question is, does it take away a little bit that you, after celebrating that the fight was made, right? Because it's the right fight for the heavyweights. It is. But after celebrating that, did you feel, and I'm asking the fans, and I'm asking you to represent the fans, did you, as a fan, feel, hey, what is this 2 fight? Let's just do 1 fight. That's got me a little suspicious here, that you're talking about 2 fights. Like you said, if it's a beatdown, move on to the next guy. Why does it have to be locked into 2? Is there funny business going on where they're going to make it a draw? And I'm not saying that I know that's going to happen, but I'm just saying the sport makes you cynical. The people that run the sport make you cynical. Did you have some thoughts about that?
I have thoughts. I have cynical thoughts about everything, including when they even announced that the fight is made and the location's not set and the date's not set. So I have cynical thoughts about the whole process and about who are going to be the judges. Where's it going to be? I think that certain guys are going to get a favorable decisions in certain locations. So yeah,
when a guy like Aaron, when a guy talking about cynical, when a guy like Aaron tells you good morning, what do? You go to the window to see? No, is that what you're implying? Is that a little bit of the line of thought that connects with this?
Well, when the promoter the day before announcing the fight is made tells you to go F yourself, and he doesn't give an F what you think about the fight, it kind of leaves you a little disenfranchised with the whole process, to be honest.
Yeah. I hear you. I just would have liked to. I would have just liked to hear 1 fight. That's all. But I get it. The
other part of this that's interesting is that when he went on that rant about F the fans, he said, "Oh, listen, we're all doing our job. Eddie's doing a great job. Eddie's like their best boys." And last month, he was calling Eddie a scoundrel and a sneak for bidding on the Teofimo Kambusa fight. So it's literally like, what was the line he said once? Like, hey, well, you said this yesterday. And he was like, yesterday I was lying. Today I'm telling the truth.
That's vintage Sharon.
It's kind of like, what you don't know. You have to discount everything that's said by promoters to a certain extent when these kind of things happen.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem. Is trust, trusting. Again, with UFC, I'm not talking about Dana White in any moral ways. I don't know him good enough as a human being, as a man. I think he's a decent man, but I don't know enough to go down that road. I just know that you can trust you could trust that he's going to give you the best fights possible all the time, as much as possible, because, well, it's to his benefit. Again, because the healthier the sport is, the healthier his bank account is. It works that way. But it don't work, again, as I said earlier in my tirade. It doesn't work that way in boxing. You know, the bank accounts of these very rich promoters is not attached to the health of the entire sport. It's only attached to the health of the deal they got with the network, with their stable of fighters. That's what it's attached to. It's different. It's different. And it has to be understood by the fans. And I hope that I helped them that way to understand why these things, you know, take place and happen. But hopefully it'll be, you know, it'll be like a Super Bowl, you know, Ken, because they've built the hell out of it. You know, you know, sometimes the Super Bowls are flops, though. You know, sometimes they're 40-point blowouts. You don't know. But the build-up to them is part of it, right? Isn't that part of it, really?
Of course.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Anticipating it and anticipating. Just like the fights, and I'm going to name the fights, but they did turn out to be great, great, great fights. But like Ali, Frazier, you know, the build-up to the fights, the commercials, the, you know, getting, you know, picking your side, who's your guy, you know, all that. And then you get to the moment, you know, and you hope the moment is as good as the build-up. And you hope that that's the case, you know, with this one.
Yeah, this will be a good one. And speaking of heavyweights, we got a good one coming up in 2 weeks with our friend Francis fighting Stipe, and we'll do a whole breakdown on that one next week. But yeah, this is a good one, and you're right. The build-up is like, you know, half the fun is the build-up and the anticipation and the debate about who's going to win, watching the odds. So, well, we'll see if they actually come up with a date and a venue anytime in the near future. I would venture to guess that part of this thing was rushed to get done because of Fury's banter over the weekend in the interviews he did. But one last thing I wanted to talk to you about was, I know you got a chance to see quickly the main event in the UFC. We had Leon Rocky Edwards finally in action. I think he had like 4 or 5 fights postponed because of COVID, injuries, etc., etc. He was in against Belal Muhammad. Big step up for Belal. Big chance, opportunity for both guys headlining the fight. And just a terrible accidental eye poke by Leon Edwards. Literally looked like his finger went into the eyeball and almost pulled his bottom eyelid out a little bit. But you could tell right away that Belal Muhammad was in bad shape. I thought maybe like, you know, popped his eyeball, which can happen. And he just went down. You could tell right away there was no nonsense. He was really hurt and concerned about his vision. And Dr. Kamin stopped the fight. And disappointing for both guys. Feel for both guys, but man, it's a constant problem in the UFC, those eye pokes.
Yeah, Ken, we talked about this. I think Rob's going to probably put a clip of one of our episodes, if he hasn't already, up, just to kind of revisit that. We talked about this, I don't know how long ago. It could have been months and months ago, but where we visited that problem with the UFC, with the eye pokes. You know, it's not a new problem. And it's not going to go away, you know, anytime soon unless there's something done to change it, you know. And we talk about changing the way the judging is in boxing. You know, it's not going to go away by itself. You have to do something. You have to hold these guys accountable to judge. You have to change what you're doing. You have to come up with a system of judging these judges if you want to get better in that area. And the same thing with this. It's not something that happens once in a blue moon. It happens much too frequently. And these great warriors and, you know, just, I mean, they're samurais. These guys are truly Vikings. They're everything, just like the great fighters are. And they persevere through enough. You know, they have to overcome elbows, knees, kicks, almost bare fists, chokeouts. Do I have to go any further? They shouldn't have to deal with the possibility of losing their eyesight and their eye. They shouldn't have to deal with that. That should not be one of the things that they have to persevere with. They should have to deal and overcome. That should not be one of those things. And one of the things when we talked on our podcast about this, I had brought up, I'm no expert in here, but I have common sense. I've been in the fight business 45 years. I mean, I understand that they want to keep the fingers loose because of the grappling component of the sport. I understand that. So come up with a membrane, come up with a new glove, come up with something that still gives you the ability for your fingers to move, to be flexible, but it holds them together. It keeps them from separating to the extent where you can get those eye pokes to the level that we're getting them now. Get some kind of membrane. I mean, the science is through the roofs with the advancements of the things they can do nowadays in sports and anything, actually, right? Come up with some kind of soft membrane. The NFL comes up with different things. Come up with some kind of a glove that, again, it inhibits the fingers from being able to so easily go into someone's eyes, where it joins them together. And at the same time, allows you the pliability to move your hands, and to move within that membrane, if you will, to be able to grapple and do the things you have to do. I remember there was a problem with thumbing in boxing years ago. Big problem. Every once in a while, a guy get thumb and get a detached retina. And they had to do something. They finally came up with attached thumbs, where they attached the thumbs, where the thumbs were held together by a little piece of leather, so you couldn't separate your thumb anymore, where you were so easy to put your thumb into someone's eye, accidentally or on purpose, quite frankly. So you can do it. You can come up with the invention with the idea of a glove. They did it in boxing. Again, I understand the different element of having to have the fingers involved because of the other dimensions of UFC with the jiu-jitsu and the grappling. But I think that's the answer. It's time to come up with something now. And I believe that with all the wherewithal that Dana White and the UFC, the ability they have financially and everything else, they could do marvels probably, and go work with some sports science people and come up with the proper product to help alleviate this problem. Because as you brought up, it's a serious problem, and it's been there for a long time now. It's not like something that you were just talking about today because of what happened recently. This has been going on.
Yeah, like I said before, I think Trevor Whitman's working on a solution right now, and we discussed that after the Stipe and DC fight. But I think Trevor Whitman's working on a couple glove designs now, and has been for a while. I know he was on Rogan talking about it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. It's a real shame. It's a bummer for everyone involved, both of the fighters, the UFC. I mean, no one wants to see that. It's just. Yeah, who knows? So it's still early days in the evolution of the sport when you think about how long the UFC's been around versus how long boxing's been around. And I'm sure they'll continue to make advancements. But in other news, if you're into watching lions eat raw meat, Artur Beterbiev's going to fight next Saturday. And I would imagine that would be the equivalent of watching a zookeeper fire some steaks into a hungry lion's cage. He'll fight from Moscow. Fight will be on... I think it's on ESPN. ESPN at 3 p.m. Eastern next week. And Artur Beterbiev versus Adam Deines. Man, that is dangerous fight for the kid in there with Beterbiev.
Hey, look, these fights that Canelo's been getting have been dangerous for his opponents too. I mean,
for sure.
And then they're mandated as number one mandatories. I mean, who's in charge of these mandates of saying, oh yeah, this guy's the number one challenger in the whole world? The whole world. Who is it? Is it your next door neighbor? I don't know. I don't know.
My next door neighbor is a very nice, compassionate guy. He would never do that.
Oh, good.
Hey, speaking of Canelo,
but let me just finish one thing with Beterbiev.
Yeah,
Beterbiev. One thing you're going to get an aggressive guy. You're going to get a strong physical guy. You're going to get, as you said, a lion. You're going to get a guy that can punch like hell, especially with the right hand. He's a warrior. He's a warrior, and he's going to come. He's going to come, and he comes, the kind of the way I described the Marvin Hagler. He's honest. You could trust him. You know what he's going to bring every time he gets in the ring. He's going to come forward and he's going to try to take you out.
Yep.
It's not complicated.
I think you could give the opponent in this fight a hammer or a knife, and he's still going to end up on the wrong side of this fight. But speaking of Canelo, David Benavidez in action this weekend. I mean, look, he was fighting a former sparring partner of Canelo and Ronald Ellis, and no disrespect to Ellis, but he was completely outclassed. He took a beating for 12 rounds. Benavidez, it's hard to say he looked awesome because he was literally fighting a guy who was putting up almost no resistance at times, but I love Benavidez. He's so big and strong. He called out Caleb Plant. I imagine Caleb Plant's going to wait to see if Canelo gets through Saunders. I would imagine Caleb's next for Canelo. So to Canelo's credit, he beat up the mandatory, but he's always in there pretty tough. But interesting what's going on in the super middleweight 168s. There's a lot of talent there, and I just like to see them all fight each other. But I have a feeling no one's looking to get in with Benavidez anytime soon. The guy is just so big and strong. I really like him. Nevertheless, we'll see what happens.
Well, listen, Benavidez in the 168-pound division. You got Saunders, you got Plant. They're good technically. They get the job done. But the most talented guy there, physical talent, the most dangerous guy there, it's no contest. It's Benavidez. I mean, it is. And the most dangerous fight in that division, if the truth's going to be spoken, not all the BS because you're on one side or the other, because you want a job with one of the networks or one of the organizations or whatever. The truth is, Benavidez is the most dangerous, or it's a real threat, or more of a threat to Canelo in that division than anybody else, because of his size, because of his physical strength, and he hasn't learned how to lose. That's part of it. The other guys haven't either. But, because of his overall physicality, you have to have certain level of ability, physical ability, to beat a guy like Canelo. And you have to have other things too. They have to come into play afterwards. But you have to start with that. And Benavidez starts with that. More so than the other guys.
I can't imagine any of the top guys with the thought of a Canelo fight on the horizon. I can't imagine any of those top 5 guys getting in the ring with Benavidez. I mean, top 5 guy, Anthony Durrell, they're just not going to do it. So I don't know where Benavidez goes.
That doesn't make you the Mason Kreskin. Like I say, that don't make you amazing. But you're right. I mean, they wouldn't put a line on that bet. Even my bookie, and they're great, but they wouldn't have a line on that freaking thing. You're right. I
just feel bad for Benavidez. Like, where does Benavidez go? Who does he even fight to avoid being in there with opponents? I don't think any of these guys will even.
He's going to wind up moving up. I think he's going to wind up moving up to light heavyweight. He's a big guy. He's got the frame, the skeleton for it. I think that's what they're going to wind up doing.
Be interesting to see if Canelo does beat Billy Joe and then beats Caleb Plant. What he does? Does Canelo move up, or does he dare to take on Benavidez for all the belts? Because my guess is that he probably moves up and looks for one of the other light heavyweights before he. It would be funny if Benavidez then decides. Okay,
I don't take away nothing from Canelo and the Canelo fans out there.
Same here.
I love Canelo, but they're smart too. They pick their spots just like Mayweather, very smart, great fighter. I love Mayweather, but he picked his spot. He was a good manager. He was a good handicapper of where he was going and what fights he was taking, and when, and so is Canelo and his group. They're not fighting Bivol or Beterbiev. They're not. I'm gonna go out on a rope. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they're not. I mean, maybe you prove me wrong, and I'll be the first one on this show that'll come up and I'll start the show with, I was wrong. But it's not necessary for them right now. In their mind, for their legacy, they're not worried about me judging their legacy or somebody. They're they figure their legacy is going to take care of itself, and the people are going to judge it as the fans of today will judge it. And in the adoring way that they love Canelo, they judge him as one of the greats. But we did a show, what was it, last podcast, 2 podcasts ago, about how deep really the talent and the great fighters go, the history goes in Mexican boxing. How long and serious that list is of great Mexican fighters. I mean, it's extraordinary. And I'm sorry, I'll say it again, but some people won't like it, but Canelo's not at the top of that list. Not yet. That list, go look at it before you go and take these things out. And I get it. I get it. I get it. I got it. But before you, do this and you do your cheerleading, C-A-N-E-L-O, Canelo. I mean, I get it. He's great. But
we need to get you some green, red, and white pom-poms for the Mexican flag.
I take them. I'll do it for them, for my great Mexican brothers and sisters out there. I'll be glad to do that. But before you go crazy, look at that list. Understand that list. Study that list. Really. You're honest. You want to be honest fans. You look at it. Look at the greatness of the fighters on that list and who they fought. And how many times they fought those kind of guys before you go and, get those pom-poms out. Those pom-poms, boy.
Well, listen, before we sign off, I want to read you a quote from the Hagler-Hearns documentary. After the second round, the doctor went in to check on Hagler's eye. And the quote from the documentary reads like this: blood continued seeping down Hagler's face, and Steele now suspended proceedings to call for the ringside judge to look at Hagler's injury. When Steele asked Hagler whether Hearns was visible, Hagler retorted, "Well, I ain't missing him, am I?" The doctor counseled forbearance, and the fight continued.
I love you, Marvin. God bless you. Rest well, champ. Rest well, champ. You were great.
And with that, thank you for doing this, Teddy. Guys, thanks for being with us. Rest in peace to the great, marvelous Marvin Hagler, and we'll be back with you next week. Thanks for being with us.